If you can get somewhere in 30 minutes, it's basically next door. All of this always happens overnight or on the weekend. So it never affects work because once you leave, anywhere else just feels amazing in comparison. Hi, this is Pinky, your friend from China. In my last video, I mentioned that I recently moved to a new city, and to make it a little more fun, I decided to give you some clues this time, especially if you are familiar with the major city in mainland China. You might guess it pretty quickly. So here are a few comments I found online from people who live here. Every day, I spend forever on the subway just to return to this broke down window. I really don't understand why did I leave my hometown to live like this. I can't even tell my family I'm paying this much rent to live in such a dump. For the same price, the houses you can buy are the most basic. The rentals are the oldest, and the layouts are downright weird. How I understand distance. If you can get somewhere in 30 minutes, it's basically next door. If your commute is under an hour, that's considered easy mode. There are sandstones, sudden rainstorms, and even worse, sometimes it rains during a sandstorm. You literally get mud falling from the sky. And somehow, all of this always happens overnight or on the weekend. So it never affects work. Living in actually raises your happiness because once you leave, anywhere else just feels amazing in comparison. So, did you guess it? Okay. I'm living in Beijing now. One reason is something I mentioned in previous video. I'm the kind of person who loves new experiences and is deeply curious about different cultures. After living abroad for a while, I started wondering how would I, living in a completely different part of China, reshape my view of the world and of myself. There is a saying in Chinese, each region raises its own kind of people. Looking back, I understand how my past experiences shaped who I am today. So this time I wanted to do something like a postgrad exchange student, like experiment, to know what kind of changes would it bring to my life and personality. As for why Beijing, well, a big reason is the pandemic. I feel like that period left me with a lot of unresolved regrets, like how I was stuck in online classes for a year, or how I entered remotely at a Beijing-based multinational company but never got to fully experience the city. Technology made it possible, sure, but it also meant I never fully got to explore this place. This is a city with great streets where people gave directions using north, south, west, and east. So when I started this new Exchange Life series, And I felt right to begin with the city where things felt unfinished. Though is Beijing really China's least happy big city? Given everything I've shared, you can probably understand why some people are intimidated by this place. Honestly, I had concerns too, especially during pandemic. But even beyond that, I didn't want to pay sky-high rent to live in a rundown apartment with random roommates fighting over the bathroom every morning. But after arriving, my experience turned out to be kind of surprising. Let me break it down into a few key impressions. As someone from southern China who is extremely sensitive to cold, I was dreading winter outdoors. The coldest I'd experienced before was maybe -5 Celsius in Tokyo, but Beijing winters can drop to -20 Celsius, which sounds terrifying. But then I discovered central heating as a game changer. In my hometown, winters barely hit freezing, but even with air conditioning, I always feel cold and damp. Heating there is like a temporary defense item. It stops the cold from killing you, but you're still under attack. How about in Beijing? I walked into my apartment and it's like I've entered another season. I can wear light clothing indoors and feel totally fine. It's like I'm in recovery mode. Honestly, I feel like my whole health bar just got longer. In my hometown, I'm basically in hibernation mode during winter. But here, I've got the energy to actually live, to go out, get this done, and feel good doing it. Normally, I don't like to talk about the service in China because, let's be real, it's complicated. In my experience, both customers and the service provider often come into transactions with a get more out of this mindset. Shoppers want the best deal and hate getting ripped off. Sellers are ready with thousand sales tricks to make a profit. So I'm always a bit guarded, trying not to fall into some trap that ends with me spending way too much money on something I didn't want. I remember when I flew back to Shanghai from Tokyo in 2020, I was honestly shocked. In Tokyo, service is top tier. Smiles, politeness, solving problem before you even ask. But in Shanghai, I had an experience at Hongqiao Airport where a staff member was flat out rude and dismissive when I politely asked a question. It really made me miss Japan. I started to wonder, was I just used to this growing up? Did I never notice before? Eventually, I adjusted my expectation and figured in China, you often get the service you pay for, so I stopped making it a big deal. But in Beijing, I was shocked again in a good way. For example, even without asking, drivers would see my suitcase and help me carry it, not just to the car, but even after we arrived. When I needed help, people showed genuine concern and gave real assistance, not just going through the motions. And when it comes to sales and or negotiation, people knew how to build trust, make you feel comfortable, and show their professionalism without being pushed or fake. Of course, some of this depends on language and the cultural context, so maybe it only works if you speak Chinese. But for me, I felt like a high level of emotional intelligence in how people interact. I've been wondering if I had landed in Beijing first instead of Shanghai back in 2020, maybe I wouldn't have been so shocked. And yes, it's not totally fair to compare Shanghai in 2020 with Beijing in 2025, but still, maybe the fact that Beijing is a cultural and educational hub has something to do with it. There is a long history of well-educated, rational, thoughtful people here, and that might shape both the service industry and how people communicate. For me, it was actually kind of comforting. Moving usually sucks, right? You are dragging your entire life with your own two hands. When I was in Tokyo, I once moved my futon and bedding using a 13-inch suitcase on GR9, bit by bit, over multiple subway rides. It was like testing my physical and mental limits every time. Then instead, I stayed in a dorm 25 minutes away from the nearest Kmart. During Heritage Week, everything was out of stock, so I walked that 15 minutes round trip multiple times just to get the basics. And don't get me started on assembling furniture. I've built my own bed and wardrobe before. For someone who barely cooked before studying abroad, these were all big milestones. Living overseas shaped me. It made me stronger, more independent, more resilient. But this time, I feel like, whoa, I got to be pampered again. All I had to do was take a cab from the hotel to my new place with two suitcases, ordered daily essentials like bedding, toiletries, and hangers using an app, wait an hour, boom, delivery to my door. No hiking 15 minutes, no train rides, no heavy lifting. Even stuff I don't need right away, I just order online and it shows up in 2 or 3 days. Just a few taps on my phone and done. Now you might be wondering, wait a second, you said earlier that one of the reasons life in Beijing feels unhappy is the poor living conditions. Sure, moving in is easy, but what happens after moving in? Honestly, you are right. Beijing developed early, which also means the housing is old. Even if you are paying a high rent, finding a modern apartment still feels like a luxury. And by modern, I basically mean two things: a bathroom that doesn't gross me out, and a kitchen that doesn't kill my appetite. In China, lots of renters are really skilled at transforming old apartments. With some soft decor, bedrooms and living rooms can look brand new, but the kitchen and bathroom, unless the landlord agrees, you are often stuck using outdated, grimy facilities. And for those of us who grew up elsewhere, even if we did see bathrooms like this when we were kids, we've gotten used to more modern setups over the years. Going back to something from 20 years ago, that's hard to swallow. The second luxury is having your own bathroom. In a shared apartment, not sharing a bathroom saves you from at least 50% of the headaches. Not sharing a kitchen, add another 30%. The rest is just hoping your roommate aren't loud. Imagine, after a long, stressful day, knowing you have to fight over a toilet or grocery stove just to make life feels even more hopeless. What's worse is having a private bathroom, even in a shared place, usually means paying 50% more rent. That's why I used to be scared of life like this. But luckily, This time I found a place with my own bathroom and even my own kitchen. So at least when it comes to living, I'm not suffering through what I was most afraid of. Now, if you are still not quite sure why having my own bathroom and kitchen makes me so happy, let me tell you about what I went through before and why I've been craving solo living. When I was living in Tokyo, I didn't think much of it. But after I left, I realized how perfectly Tokyo is built for people living alone. That feeling really hit me once I moved to Sydney. Sydney is a great place, modern, convenient, beautiful beaches and weathers. If you are living with a family, it's honestly paradise. But I was just one lonely international student. And in Sydney, it felt like everything housing, products, even the portion sizes was designed for families. Every time I went to the supermarket, I wondered how long is it going to take me to finish all the meat. A friend once told me when the bread started to mold, that's when I felt the most alone. She wished there were someone to help finish it before it went bad. Maybe locals don't really get that sadness, just like we lonely students couldn't understand why is everything so big. Sometimes walking past people's houses and seeing their warm, cozy lives, it felt like happiness was right there, but also impossibly far away. I was just a sad little person watching my bread go moldy. That's when I started missing cold and distant Tokyo. Because there, living alone is normal. So the whole lifestyle, the groceries, the housing caters to solo people. Tiny, single portion packets of food, mini apartments like one arm unit, enough space and privacy just for yourself. You might say, but Sydney has studios too. Yeah, double the price of a shared place. So I'm supposed to pay two people's rent for just me. In that sense, Sydney feels like heaven for couples and families. But if you are alone, it's like getting kicked while already lying on the ground. That's why I wanted to live alone so badly. And even though Beijing's rental market didn't seem super promising, I got lucky. I really did end up with my own place. I have my own bathroom, my own kitchen. I can cook for myself, eat in peace, and just enjoy life. Wait, who even cooks in Beijing? I know it sounds weird. Who comes to Beijing and lives like a student abroad? Well, most young people here don't really cook. They order takeout. But for my case, when I was in Tokyo, my first time studying abroad, the yen was still pretty strong, so meals there cost about 3 times more than in China. To save money, I started learn to cook. Over the years, I actually got pretty good at it. Funny enough, I didn't keep up that chef life when I moved to Sydney. Even though the border had reopened, there is still risk of catching COVID, so I rarely cooked in a shared dorm kitchen. But a girl's gotta eat, right? So I bought a little pot and started making steam-based meals. No oil, no smoke, because setting up the fire alarm would be a nightmare. That's how I survived. Steamed fried eggs, steamed veggies, everything went into the pot. And now in Beijing, this overseas student life continues. I bought a 2-level steamer with 4 bowls. Sometimes I'll steam rice and veggies, then cook the main dish separately. On busy days, everything just gets steamed together, super efficient. I'm honestly happy. Back in Tokyo, I loved cooking, but it could get tiring. Back then, I wished I could one day afford the freedom to cook or order out or eat at the restaurant whenever I want. Now, I've kind of reached that dream. I've got the balance. My meals are quick, healthy, and full of veggies. The supermarket and the restaurants are nearby, and while the meat isn't as nicely pre-packaged as in Japan, you can still ask the butchers to debone chicken for you. And if I don't feel like going out, there is delivery, grocery, or takeout. Plus, there is this high-tech smart locker downstairs. Scan your face or your phone, grab the food, and the app charges you automatically. It's kind of bittersweet feelings. On one hand, it reminds me of the golden years of China's internet boom, when online payments made everything, taxis, takeout, vending machines, so easy. Meanwhile, in Japan, I was still fumbling with coins at the supermarket. But on the other hand, it also reminds me of the vending machine in my Sydney dorm, the one that also saved me when I'm starving and also charged double the price. Just like the vending machine, this apartment complex has a surprise, a gym, just like my dorm in Sydney. Before I come to Beijing, this was actually one of my biggest concerns. I love playing badminton, but here in Beijing, 1 hour costs 200 to 300 yuan. That's 5 times the price in central Chongqing and 10 times the price in the suburbs. That meant I could only play 1/5 as much on the same budget. And for someone who needs a regular endorphin boost, that was honestly terrifying. So before coming, I told myself I might have to quit my sports hobbies altogether. Not just for financial reasons, but because I didn't know if there would be any gyms or courts near my apartment. I even packed a full set of resistance bands in my luggage just in case. But again, lucky me, my apartment has a gym. I was honestly surprised. I didn't expect the facilities to actually match what young people need. Now, I can do strength training and cardio right there on super busy day or when the air is bad. Hello, stand down and strong winds. I can just work out at home using bands or even use the stairs for cardio. So, yeah, compared to what I expected, the living conditions are way better. And I'm really grateful I can keep up the fitness habits I worked so hard to build last year. Okay, maybe I'll be mostly talking about good things, but here is the truth. I expected life in China's unhappiest city to be tough. And maybe that's why I'm able to see the positive sides more clearly now. At the same time, I know I've been lucky. That's probably why. While so many people online and offline are sharing their struggles, I'm sitting in this quiet little bubble, talking about small things that bring me joy. Maybe it's a mindset thing. Like when I was in grad school, the official students were studying day and night, only able to relax after exams. But the exchange students, they were out exploring every weekend because grades didn't affect their GPA. So they were just there to experience as much as possible. Now it's my turn to have my exchange life. Maybe my mindset is totally different from the ambitious, hardworking people around me, but that also gave me a different lens to explore this city. So, if you are curious about life in China's most unhappy big city, or if there is something you want to experience here, drop a comment. I'll take you along with me and we will explore the exchange life together.